The highest point between the Appalachians and the Rockies is Mount Magazine, home of the historic Mount Magazine State Park. With the scenic Pedagine River Valley to the south and the well-traveled Arkansas River Valley to the north, Mount Magazine has long been one of the most prominent features in all of Arkansas. Known for its natural beauty and sweeping, majestic views, Mount Magazine is a sight familiar to almost all Arkansans. Driving down the north side of Mount Magazine, one comes quickly to beautiful Cove Lake. Built in 1935, Cove Lake has also been a popular local destination for generations. Built in 1937 by the Works Progress Administration, the Cove Lake Spillway Bridge is both well preserved and rich in historic significance. Located at the northern foot of Mount Magazine and one of the jewels of Logan County, rests Paris, Arkansas, which is frequently hailed as the gateway to Mount Magazine.
City life just ain't for me. I'm like a boat tossed out at sea. I long to find a distant shore, wandering lost, hoping for more. There's a calling in my heart to run on back and make my start. The old home place, my ma and pa, it's all a part of Arkansas. People there walk in the street, they shaking howdy when they meet.
Like the town itself, the historic murals of Paris remain sharp and well preserved. Keeping the murals clean and colorful while adding to their number is a project that the youths of Paris gladly embrace.
My name is Sean, and I helped keep Paris beautiful. I helped paint the bleachers at the rodeo arena.
What drives me to keep Paris beautiful is the community. I love it here. It's my home and it always will be.
Tanya Varnell, the communications director of the Paris School District, planned the 2013 Keep Paris Beautiful Workday in conjunction with the Paris City government.
We have several student groups at our schools that get involved in community service projects, from cleaning up litter to hosting programs for our senior citizens.
The town spirit of Paris, Arkansas is also demonstrated by how all of the town's age groups and civic organizations remain active and frequently work together toward both one another's benefit and the betterment of the entire town.
I'm Daniel Rogers, the mayor of the city of Paris. I run the day-to-day operations of the city. I'm a full-time mayor. Really enjoy it. Love public service. I want to make a difference in our city for my kids, for our grandkids one day. I really want to. I'm young enough too that I can actually live through things we make now, see the progress over time, and help make it a better place for our children.
Hello, I'm Linda Hickson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Paris Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm just nuts about Paris, Arkansas, and just try everything that I can do to promote us and get more people to come here. So that's basically what I do.
Every town has a senior prom, but when Paris, Arkansas hosts its senior prom, it's not quite like any other.
Our king is Elmer Rogers.
Every year at the town's Senior Activity Center, the youths of Paris host a senior prom for the town's elderly citizens.
Our queen is Miss Betty Mantooth. Miss Mantooth, come forward.
The annual senior prom is a festive event looked forward to all year long by both the community's young and old alike. It features a decoratively themed atmosphere, fine food and service, entertainment and dancing, all provided largely by the town's youth. Paris is a community with a very rich church history, and the churches of Paris have a very rich history of community involvement. Paris is home to many active churches, some of which have very deep and long-standing histories within the Paris community.
People here, though, have made me feel like a member of the community. They are all very loving to each other and to the community.
In 1971, a fire engulfed the Paris Elementary School, and the structure burned to the ground. If this were to occur in today's socio-political climate, millions of tax dollars would be spent on bringing in a large fleet of temporary classroom portables. When this occurred in Paris, Arkansas, however, the churches simply opened up their doors and allowed the school district to hold and maintain classes until a new elementary school could be built. The taxpayer cost of this move? Nothing.
We're just all neighbors, and let's work together to have a better Paris and a better future for our city.
Not only do these churches have a rich place in the community's history, but each of these churches has a rich history of community involvement. They remain active in meeting the needs of the community today, as is evidenced by outreach programs such as the First Christian Church's drive to feed the community at large.
We came up with the Open Doors feeding program. Every Thursday from 5 to 6:30, the doors to our fellowship hall are open to anybody for any reason to come and to share in the food and the fellowship there. Folks within our congregation and the community effort, because we have volunteers from other churches that are very active to come and give of their time and their energy to make that the successful program that it is. Over 7,000 meals had been served. We're averaging about 70 folks every Thursday night, so the numbers will drastically go up. And there's nothing that's any more fulfilling for me than to see some hungry kids come in and sit at those tables and chow down and enjoy the food and the fellowship that goes with that program.
The First United Methodist Church has a long-standing history of opening up their facilities to civic groups and organizations within the community.
We have the AA group that meets at our church every month. We do not charge them. We allow them to come in, and I think it's very important that we support groups like this, because all of us are going to have weaknesses. All of us are going to have trials. That you have your brothers and sisters that stand around you and give you support to get the monkey off your back.
The church's long-standing history and beautiful architecture have both worked together toward placing the structure on the National Registry of Historic Places.
It was the style of architecture that it was that put it on the National Register of Historic Places. It's the Romanesque because of the brick arches and things in it.
The complete construction of the church occurred very deliberately and took place over a long period of time.
This brick church that we have now was started in 1924 and finished in 1928. And what's always impressed me was the fact that, this was the Depression. And these people stepped out there and built a building like that in the middle of the Depression, but was never actually finished per se until 1978 when we had our 100-year renovation. In 1940, a Methodist church in Oklahoma closed, and they wanted to donate their organ to another church. 3 of the men got together and went out there and taken it apart and brought it down here and reassembled it in the Catholic church. So it's actually a Methodist organ. And when we renovated the church in '78, We refurbished that organ too. It's one of the larger pipe organs in this part of the state.
Pioneers initially settled the area that would become present-day Paris all the way back in the 1820s, nearly 200 years ago. Around that time, the village of Paris was formed on the old military road that had been constructed between the cities of Little Rock and Fort Smith. The villagers constructed a one-story frame courthouse. The town prison was built nearly 3 blocks from the courthouse and remained the town's prison for many years.
It was a jail until 1971. Then in 71, due to fire codes and prisoner rights, they said, well, it was no longer safe to be a jail, and they were going to demolish that beautiful old building. But the women of the county, bless their hearts, they came to save us and said, let's make this into a museum. So it was a museum from 1972 to present day, and we specialize in things for Logan County. The Logan County Jail is famous for being the site of the last legal hanging in Arkansas. It's a sad story about a young man who was 22 and then a young lady that was 19. The young man's name was Arthur Tillman, and the young lady's name is Amanda Stevens. Arthur and Amanda had dated for a while when they were in junior high, senior high. Amanda has gotten pregnant, so she's pressing Arthur, and then another young man who was married, John Bolden. She wants either one of them, and for some reason, preferably John Bolden. Well, John is already married. That leaves Arthur on the hook. And he said, I'd be happy to marry you, but he says, I've really thought about it, Amanda, and since I'm not sure who this baby is, I'm afraid I'd mistreat you. If I knew for sure it was my baby, then, you know, it might work, but I'm afraid I'd mistreat you. He comes back home one night, and he stops by a well that was adjacent to his family's property and looked in that well because the curbing had been disturbed, and he thought maybe a cow or something had fallen in. Well, he went on home. They told him, Amanda's missing. She's been gone. And he said, well, Dad, I think she must have, gone on to visit her mother's relatives. Mr. Johnson, who owned that property and was neighbors to the Tillmans, said, I think that was Arthur Tillman looking in that well, and he said, I wonder if Amanda Stevens might not be in that well. So he went and got the sheriff, and the next day they came and dug out the well, and there's Amanda Stevens. They found him guilty.
Marshall? Yeah. I don't know what's gone wrong, but he's still wiggling. Shoot him!
I am a member of the In and Outlaws reenactment group, and we do reenactments on site at the museum. We do hangings. I have been hung several times. We have a really good time. We have several members in our reenactment group. I've enjoyed it immensely. It really brings a sense of community to Paris. I've really enjoyed it.
Coal mining started before there was ever even a Paris in 1866. This guy lived about 3 miles west of Paris. He was the blacksmith guy they called it a village, a little community of people. They had an outcropping of coal on their property, so he went out and got some of that and brought it back, a lump or two of it for his dad to try. And they found out it was very good. So then he had his dad to make him a pick, and he went out and he dug it and put it in bushel baskets and brought it to his dad. The boy started selling it to people all around, 75 cents a bushel. And then in 1890, George Lump and Angelo Di Giacomo opened the first mine in Paris. That was when the coal industry took off. They had semi-anthracite coal, which is the hottest, cleanest burning coal in the United States.
There were about 30 or 40 different mines open at one time, and it employed a lot of people. There were 3,000 and 4,000 miners working at any one time in Paris, and that helped the economy. And this was during the Depression when there was no work for anybody.
And the vein of coal was from 17 inches to, if it was 3 foot wide, that was pretty wide. Most of the miners didn't even have room to sit up. They worked laying on their sides and picking. It was low during the Depression, and after the Depression started, and then when the war started, it picked back up. And the peak time was probably in the 30s to the 40s. And then by 58, they were all closed.
Opened in 2010, the mission of the Paris-Logan County Coal Miners Memorial and Museum has been to preserve the history of coal mining and honor the thousands of men who worked in the coal mines by providing children and adults free learning experiences in a safe, clean, and inviting environment.
The dream of having a coal miners memorial began in about 2004 when we all were meeting, talking about the coal miners, and decided that it would be a wonderful tribute to the coal miners that built the town of Paris if we had a memorial for them. The old 2522 steam engine, that's one of very, very few left in the United States, has been at the city park for several years, and it's getting really run down. Everybody wants it moved to the coal miners' site because that's where the train used to run. Our building is sitting on top of the railroad bed that engine ran millions of tons of coal in and out of Paris, Arkansas.
Paris is a town with 3 museums and a 4th in the making. If you ask any of the town's more mature citizens where they were born, they will likely tell you they were born at the old Smith Hospital.
I was hatched there some 58 years ago, and that's true of about 8,000 kids, I think, that were born in this hospital.
Built in 1910, the Smith Hospital remained in operation until 1972.
And I think we've had now 4 generations of Smith family that have practiced medicine here. The hospital is no longer used. We have a new hospital. Everyone knows when we talk about the Paris Hospital exactly where it's located. I live, in fact, on Sanders Street. I always tell people that the reason that's Sanders Street, my mother's name was Sanders, and she was up here so much having kids, they named the street after her.
The first insurance policy that was started in Arkansas, and I think in the United States, was begun here, and it was mostly for the coal miners. The coal miners would have explosions, or rocks would fall on them, they would be injured, and they would have to stay weeks and sometimes months in the hospital. So they set up a hospital insurance program where they could pay, I think back then it was $1 a week, $1 a month. It was very, very minimal. They and their family could stay here free in the hospital. And the Smith doctors owned 4 coal mines here in Paris. They were some of the earliest investors in coal mines here in Paris.
Now listed on the National Registry of Historic Places, the Smith Hospital has been featured on the well-known Abandoned Arkansas website. McCowley Winery and Museum, located on State Highway 22 just west of Paris, is dedicated to preserving the history and artifacts of the winemaking tradition in Arkansas. Furthermore, it is the only museum system in the United States that's dedicated to preserving the history of a complete state.
I have been making wine since 1955 and started the winery in 1967. They'll see the wines and be able to taste them. They can go through the museum and see artifacts from about a third of the wineries that were in Arkansas. Everything from a 1,600-gallon cask to small bottles. There were 152 wineries in this state. Arkansas wineries have won awards in international competition. They've won awards in Europe.
The Cowley Winery and Museum is also the home to the largest collection of bells in the state of Arkansas. With multiple bell towers placed around the property, the Cowley Winery and Museum is home to both the largest bell in Arkansas and the oldest bell.
Many years ago, I used to ring the bells at St. Joseph's Church and take care of them when I was 9 up to older when I went to college. And I became fascinated with bells. I decided I was going to build a chapel. I have been an ordained Catholic deacon for 26 years, and I wanted a chapel on my property. And if you have a chapel, you need a bell. So I had one bell that I got from Henry Huber. That was a 20-inch bell. And I thought I needed a bigger one, so I found a 46-inch up in Michigan, and I bought it. Well, if you put a 46 and a 20 together, you got everything in between, that looks odd. So I bought a few more, all right? And then I decided I'd get one of every size of the iron bell that was made, from 4 inches to 54. At present, I have all of them but 50. The 50-inch was made by only one foundry in the United States. It's difficult to find. The chapel has 4 bell towers and 28 bells in the towers.
I have a bed and bath. It's called Cottage on the Creek. I started on it in '07. We took everything out of the house, gutted it, period, and started from scratch. We have a living room, dining room, fully equipped kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a bath. I think the decor is very nice. I enjoyed decorating and getting it fixed for people to enjoy when they come. It is comfortable, pleasing to the eye, a good place to just relax and do nothing. We have a back porch, a front porch, and a carport, covered carport. And just a couple years ago, I had a gazebo built.
Paris is home to a number of historic houses. All of these homes have interesting stories behind them, and a number of them continue to have interesting characters living within them. And the Wall House, located near the heart of downtown Paris, most certainly rates very high in both categories.
I grew up in the shadow of Wall House, and when it came on the market, I decided to buy it and finish it like I think Charles Wall would have wanted it finished. My understanding that Charles Wall fell in love with a Protestant girl. Her parents threatened to disown her if she married him. Charles was Catholic. He said, "If you'll marry me, I'll build you a house like none other." And she married him, and he did. Started the construction on the wall and the house in 1925. The hill was actually built from mine tailings. They hauled them out from his mine on horse and wagon to fill in behind the wall and actually build the hill. It was an old before and after hill, and he called it Park Hill. I'm back at my roots. I was a poor coal miner's son, grew up in Paris in the shadow of that house, and the Lord blessed me now to be able to buy it and restore it.
Paris, Arkansas, a good place to visit, a great place to live, and a fun place to explore. The history of Paris lives on, the future of Paris remains brilliant, and the Paris of present day is beautiful. So much to see, so much to do, and it's all right here in the heart of Arkansas, waiting for you. The people are friendly, the town is inviting, and the scenery is breathtaking. Come for a visit, stay for a day, and remember it for a lifetime.
Arkansas.